we always tell people you have a 100% chance of success in marriage, but you've got to do it the right way.
Thank you for joining us for the Blended Kingdom Families podcast. This podcast is for blended families, the people who love them, and anyone who just wants to improve their marriage and family relationships.
BKF exists to break the cycle of divorce, equip marriages, and unite blended families with the truth of God's Word. It is our hope that today you will receive biblical guidance and practical resources that will bring unity and peace to create your thriving, healthy home. Let's jump in.
Hey guys, welcome to the BKF podcast. We are so excited that you're here with us. If you have not already, please take an opportunity, like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to alert you to new podcasts that are coming out. And today we are excited to have friend and amazing guy, Brent Evans, in the studio with us, CEO Marriage Today and Exo Marriage.
That's right, yeah.
Love it.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, y'all, we love Brent, we love his family, and we just love Exo Marriage. You guys know that because we always talk about them.
Yeah.
But first, I just want to tell you a little bit about Brent. He's the CEO of Exo Marriage and host of the Exo Marriage podcast. Check it out if you haven't already. Mm-hmm. Brent has an extensive background in marketing, having joined the organization in 2005 after many successful years of helping businesses and nonprofits achieve greater results online. Exo Marriage has grown tremendously under his leadership, and we've been able to be blessed by that, and it really has.
Well, it's cool. I mean, I just like it because there are so many resources that Exo has, whether you need to be, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but keep going.
Yeah, a lot. But among other initiatives, he's led efforts to launch the popular Exo Marriage Conference series and global Exo simulcast. He relied on his digital experience to create the Exo Podcast Network, which highlights diverse marriage teachers for a rapidly expanding listener base. And it is. You guys have a huge audience. Most recently, Brent successfully guided a brand transition from Marriage Today to Exo Marriage and continues to position the organization for future success. And most importantly, he's been married to his beautiful wife, Stephanie, who we love. She's awesome, for 23 years. So we got a lot we can learn from her.
23 years?
23 years, my friend.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just celebrated in March.
Wow.
That's awesome. Well,
You're so young.
congratulations.
Thank you. Well,
And they have 3 beautiful children as well, and they reside here in Southlake, Texas with us. So, Brent, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
oh, it's a pleasure to be here. And first of all, this new set is amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And just to throw a little love for Scott and Vanessa, just, you know, I've been watching you guys from afar. Y'all do a great job with the ministry that God's given you. And just so y'all know, a lot of this is y'all are invested. Y'all are full time.
Yeah.
I know you have other things on the side, but you're investing a lot into this ministry. So just giving y'all some praise. That good job for what you're doing for blended families, and it's a pleasure to see somebody care about excellence.
Yeah.
And y'all do everything with excellence, and the set is really a feature of that. So congratulations on all y'all are doing. But pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
We're so excited. Thank you so much. That was very sweet.
So before we get into XO, let's find out more about you.
Yeah.
And so tell us about you, your family, what you guys enjoy, anything you want to tell the audience in terms of like introductions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Amarillo. My wife and I got married. I went to school at Baylor for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I was a typical pastor's kid. I was a little rough around the edges. And, I found my relationship with Christ when I was 19. I moved back to Amarillo to kind of get my head on straight. And my first weekend back at Trinity Fellowship Church, which was my dad's church, I met Stephanie. So I started pursuing her. We met in January, started dating in June. Got married the next March. So it was really quick. We stayed there for 2 years. I graduated college at West Texas A&M University in Canyon, and I wanted to start a business out of school. I wanted to kind of be in business. My dad was a pastor of a church there, and I just had no desire to be in the church world. That just wasn't my passion. I was more on the business side. So we moved to Dallas in 2000, and so we've been in the Metroplex for almost 21 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And really had a passion for business up front, but about 2005, I was praying, and my dad was, the ministry of Exo and Marriage Today at the time was moving from Amarillo to Dallas.
Yeah.
And I felt called to serve my dad. And I'd had that burden in my heart for a while, but I didn't know what that meant because I didn't want to work for the church.
Yeah.
And so I prayed about it, my dad prayed about it, and I came on board at Marriage Today to kind of help out on the business side of things. And so I was 27 at the time and kind of just still getting my feet wet in certain things. But I found that time and season of serving my dad at Marriage Today was very pivotal for him. He needed me there more than I think he knew and more than I knew. And it kind of grafted me into the ministry world with a business background, but an eye for marketing and that sort of thing. And over the last 3 or 4 years, you're starting to see a little bit more of my personality in the organization. Now, my dad is still the main guy. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a pastor. I'm not really trying to be, although I enjoy talking to people about marriage and sharing that. But my wife and I, we have 3 kids. Our daughter Kate is 13. She's an 8th grader, and then we have 2 boys, 9 and 7, 3rd grade and 1st grade. And so we're in that season of life where it's nonstop. In fact, this weekend Stephanie's got a little girls trip, and I'm watching all 3 of them by myself. So we'll see how that goes.
You're more than welcome just to bring them over to the house. We'll just throw them all together, all the kids together, and we'll see how that works.
Well, they're getting to the age where they're a little easier. There's no diapers. But there's always fighting.
Yes.
A friend of mine told me one time, he said, kids, when they're younger, are physically demanding. As they get older, they become emotionally demanding.
Yes.
So the emotional side of my 13-year-old is probably just as challenging sometimes as changing diapers. You got to invest so much in conversations now that are important. They're life-changing. And but they're not quick conversations, so you got to teach them the right way.
Raising teenagers is tough. That's tough. I know people are having that.
Well, Brent, we, want to just talk about Marriage Today, Exo, and just really like how it got started, where it's at today, and where you guys are going. We've been able to experience Exo since we moved, here in 2013-ish.
Why don't you tell everybody what Exo Marriage is? I think a lot of people have heard us talk about it, but what is it?
So my dad started the ministry in 1994. It was a burden and a passion for him to reach marriages around the world. So he had a vision for a TV program. And back then there weren't podcasts, there wasn't YouTube. And so TV was the mechanism to get the world message. There was radio, but my dad felt a passion for TV. So he started it in Amarillo, Texas, as a department of the church. He was there. He had one show, it was on WGN. The first show was on WGN. And the ministry kind of blossomed from there. He had one series called Marriage on the Rock, and if you wanted a book, that's the only book you could get. And he would just go around the country talking about Marriage on the Rock and the resource that he had developed. And it was a great resource. He developed that to hand to people when they got married. If they could do one thing, he wanted them to read Marriage on the Rock. But my parents developed this TV program, and it really began to define them and who they were. So my dad became known as the marriage guy over time, especially in Christian circles. So in sort of in a season of life, he was doing that, plus pastoring a church. And as he started to try to devote his full time to marriage ministry, he would go around and do marriage seminars. So he'd develop new resources and he would teach those around the country. Well, it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I realized that my dad would go and he would do 2 sessions on Friday night. He would do 3 sessions on Saturday morning. He would typically preach the weekend services. And he was just exhausted afterwards. And I also started to realize that, if he goes kaput, then the ministry goes kaput because he's the guy out there doing that. So Marriage Today was reaching so many people, and my dad was really developing such great content, but I realized that there was a potential for us to shift the focus of the ministry slowly to allow more speakers, to allow more people to be involved. And also, just from my perspective, the Marriage Today organization was built for Christian television. And I felt a strong passion to develop something that could reach future generations. So if Jimmy Evans isn't around, if Brent Evans isn't around, how do we keep an organization full of great resources, great talent? And so it was in Southlake, I was driving and I had just an epiphany, a download from God about changing the conference, because it was typically a Jimmy Evans conference, and if it was Marriage on the Rock, it was called Marriage on the Rock. If it was Return to Intimacy, it was called that. And my dad didn't have a whole lot of new series in him, so a lot of times we were repeating series. So I had an epiphany, to transition the conference that we were doing to be called the Exo Conference. And we had it every year at Gateway Church. So we launched 1 year conference called the Exo Conference, and we invited new speakers. So it wasn't just Jimmy Evans.
Yeah.
And it was a testing ground to see if we could do that. And so people like Dave and Ashley Willis were part of it, Sean and Lynette Reed, people that y'all have also interviewed. And it was interesting to see the audience's reaction. They came to hear Jimmy Evans, but they're getting these great new couples.
Yeah.
And that's evolved over time. So Exo Marriage, for me, like we mentioned in the bio, a recent transition from Marriage Today as being the organizational brand to Exo Marriage. Marriage Today hasn't gone away. That's my parents' brand. Like that's their microphone that they speak through. Television, podcast, that's them. Dave and Ashley have the Naked Marriage podcast, so they have their own sort of lane to run in. And Exo Marriage is that umbrella over all of those.
Yeah.
So we have an Exo Publishing arm of the ministry. We have Exo Conferences. We have Exo Now, which is our streaming platform.
Yeah.
So Exo gives us, and Exo means kisses and hugs.
Yeah.
And it's a romantic language, and you see it when you go to Target or you go some places. We'll have a sign that says Exo, Exo. So it's a universal language of love.
Yeah.
But for us, in our most recent magazine, I talked about it. I'm trying to redefine marriage. If you talk to certain people, they'll say, like, this is the world's smallest handcuffs. You ever heard of that? They look at marriage negatively, right? They look at it so, they've either had a bad experience, and we're talking about blended families, I know on this podcast some, a bad experience with marriage. And so they have this reticence about going into a marriage. And so if I can shift people's mindsets to think, when they think Exo Marriage, that Exo always kind of having that little warmth of romance to it. And having that little flavor of marriage should be fun to build. I don't want people coming to our marriage conferences only when they're in a pickle. I want them coming because they just enjoy being around great teaching just as much as they would go to a Tony Robbins event inspired to do something. I want them to come to an Exo conference, get inspired to have a greater marriage. So that's a little bit of a long-winded answer to answer the question.
Love it.
If you've never been to an Exo conference, let me just speak to that just for a second, because I know a lot of couples, they want to invest in their marriage, but a lot of times they don't really know where to go. So I will just tell you our experience with it. We love Exo Marriage Conferences, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a little bit of everything. So it's some great teaching. Pastor Jimmy he is knowledgeable. He is practical. And you got Dave and Ashley. They usually talk about sex, which is cool. And then you have a sprinkle in of all these other amazing speakers. And then I think one of the most powerful things, it ends with vow renewal. Which I don't think it's one of those things, like, we've done it 3 or 4 times, and you always leave there feeling great about your marriage, no matter what position you come into the conference. And I will tell you the story. The first one we went to, we only stayed like half of it.
I don't think you shared this with Brent yet.
I don't think I have told you this.
We went to the first day, the first half, and we were in the process of building a house, and Scott wanted to go look at this house, and I didn't want to.
No, that's not what happened.
Yes, it was.
I had to take a conference call, and she walked into the marriage conference by herself. And let me tell you something, that's not how you do a marriage conference together. So I want to encourage people, if you haven't done that, and they do them all over the country. They've got Pittsburgh, Florida, Colorado, and then Texas. But you can also do it online. So if you haven't had this opportunity, and I know you'll tell us about those resources, but the Exo Marriage Conference is amazing, and the rest of the speakers are phenomenal.
Yeah, and I want to encourage blended families who are listening to this. I think a lot of blended families, they just want to attach to blended family ministry, and I want to encourage you to not, and be open to just marriage ministry in general. I think your marriage can be blessed by anyone, and we're living proof of that. What Exo and Marriage Today and your dad and you guys have no idea just the impact that is made just on our marriage personally, but on so many other marriages, and how it's just giving life and changing future generations. And it's just vital. It's vital to legacy. It's vital to the family, because if the marriage isn't strong, if that foundation is not there, then
Well, and this is a great question. Brent, talk about your heart for why this is important and why you feel you do this day in and day out. This is what you live and breathe. Why do you feel it's so important to equip marriages?
Well, there is something to be said for society needs good marriages. Like, there's that path. And then you look at, if you have kids, you want them to grow up in a healthy home. We know that through divorce, a lot of times people are they're good people. They don't want to get divorced.
Yeah.
But bad things happen, and marriages can suffer. And so I've seen that firsthand, and I've seen it through sort of watching my dad lead a marriage ministry, and now leading it, I see it every single day. I see the devastation of divorce and people that want to make it work. Sometimes just they're too far into the devastation part. You know, their marriage, they can be saved a lot of times through God. I mean, God can have a moment in time to do a miracle, but you know, oftentimes people just don't have the right information. And I feel a passion to equip people with the right information. So if we can get people up front prepared for marriage, I just think that we'll definitely see America change and our society change in a positive way. That's why, you know, when people talk about marriage, weddings are obviously very exciting, and people are very happy about weddings. Once you get into the marriage, you're typically dealing with very serious issues. And once you start navigating those as a couple without any resources, if it wasn't for the Holy Spirit, I don't know that Stephanie and I would be married. Period. Like there's got to be something higher than yourself to draw you back together.
Absolutely.
So we teach people to have a biblical marriage, but sometimes it's just don't fight when you're hangry. Like just telling somebody that. Just take a pause. You don't have to solve every problem whenever you're frustrated. Just take a pause, you know, and every fight doesn't mean divorce. Like if you're fighting, it doesn't mean that the next step is go talk to a lawyer. Just having a place where you can tune into that's just going to restore some hope, just going to give you some inspiration. My dad's been doing that for so many years. People like David Ashley and even you guys are doing that right now. You're giving people hope and encouragement. And so I feel like from my perspective, not being the content generator, trying to create a platform for the content, that I really do have a passion to see that America has a place to turn that can give them quality marriage content from a biblical perspective that's going to change their future. It's going to help their not just their marriage, but their family and their legacy long term. And so that burden my dad had carried for so many years for marriage transitioned to me, in part because it's like if your father's a blacksmith in the old times, you learn the trade and you kind of know it. But part of it is too because I know from a personal perspective how difficult marriage can be when you're doing it alone, when you're doing it without a support system. And I just feel like with Exo Marriage, we have a good opportunity to change so many lives and so many marriages around the country. And so that's what gets me excited about it. You know, we all have kids. Where are they going to turn? 10, 20 years. You know, and then the grandkids. What's the world going to look like for them? Somebody has to keep the fire lit, the torch lit, for strong marriage, and there just has to be leaders out there that are willing to do that. And you're seeing it. You're seeing you know, all these people passionate about marriage. Thankfully, with the technology that we have today, there's a plethora of information out there. But I feel for Exo Marriage, I have a very strong vision for exactly what that looks like, and helping to support good folks like y'all that are doing ministry that we're not doing. So my dad didn't have a blended family, and I don't have a blended family. Not that we can't speak to some areas of it, but we like to partner with groups like Blended Kingdom Families to help people who have a blended family. So we're not trying to be all things to all people. It's good to partner with other good folks, and there's other parenting ministries out there. You know, there's different seasons of life. There's financial ministries out there. So we're not trying to be everything to everyone, but we are trying to center people back to if you can get a marriage centered on Christ, and you're committed to the marriage. Like it's not like the first, you know, strong gust of wind blows you over. Then you can make it. We always tell people you have a 100% chance of success in marriage. But you've got to do it the right way. You can't cheat on this test.
No, you cannot. Absolutely. I want to make sure that we hit the different parts here. So if somebody's listening and they're like, Exo Marriage, give me like 3 or 4 like just little blips. So go, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. Tell people what they can find at Exo.
Sure, exomarriage.com is our main website. And I'd say that different people have different needs. We do have premarriage.com, so if you know somebody that's going to get married, we have premarriage.com, so people, we encourage folks to go through at least some sort of course before they get married, so they have the right tools
Yeah.
when they start talking with their spouse after the honeymoon's over. And then we have from all different topics, all different kinds of resources on our store page. So we have books from my dad, from David Ashley, from Sean and Lynette. They have a great book called Marriage in Transition. We do have a blended family resource. And so that's all in the store. Our conferences are special. So if you can come to a conference, we do them around the country. You can also do them online. So we have our Exo Now platform, which we stream all of our live conferences through that. And then we have all of our social media channels. So you can get, on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, access to great clips, great quotes from our conferences, but some of it's just live from our speakers. And there's really no excuse to not engage because a lot of it's free. So we have free articles, free videos. You can engage with the ministry for no money. And get a lot of good teaching. But if you want to come to one of our conferences, I do think those are the best, most relevant and impactful ways to get your marriage to a better place. Even if your marriage is good, you can get a little bit better. And that's what I've seen firsthand for what we have. So exomarriage.com would be the best place to do it.
And the Vision Retreat, this is something that you wanted to talk about. So walk us through kind of what that is for couples.
Yeah. So Vision Retreat, this is our new guidebook here, which is unique to our ministry. I don't know of another organization that talks about having a vision retreat. And so my dad has taught it for many years. My wife and I do it. We do it, when your parents are talking about it, it's always like, they do this vision retreat things, who cares? But when you're actually in the thick of it, it's nice to have a resource that I actually, firsthand knowledge, have found so much gain from it. So visionretreat.com is where you can find more information on it. But it's a guidebook to take a yearly vision retreat with your spouse, to set aside time with just the two of you, no kids, getting far enough away from home where you don't have distractions. There's no place in my house that I can avoid kids.
Like none. They find you.
They find you. And you won't hear them for 2 hours. And then you'll go to a part of the house to be alone and they'll knock on the door. How did you find me here? So, there's so much to be said about getting away with your spouse and praying about, having a vision for your marriage. Now, here's the practical side of it. This is to get in front of fights. So if you're having constant fights about schedule, finances, kids, there's probably some pain points in your marriage that you're always touching on them. This resolves those before they happen. So you're talking about things. So it's meant to be a little bit of business. I almost said business. A little bit of business and a lot of fun. So you're meeting in the morning, you're talking through things, maybe in the afternoon, but at night you're supposed to enjoy each other. So it's time to get away with each other. It's focused time for that. It's also time to talk about some things to get in front of. So if you set a budget for the year, if you've already talked about the kids' schedules for the year, if you've talked about maybe some family vacations or who you're going to spend Christmas with, then you already have set up and you don't have to worry about it. It's not an infomercial like set it and forget it, but it's a little bit like that. You've established your plan for the year and you're united in that and God blesses it. It just does. And so you can go back to what you wrote down in your Vision Retreat guidebook and go, we prayed about this, we talked about this, and this is the plan. And it really works. So it's brand new. It's a resource that we've had for many years, but we've just revitalized it. And there is a video component to it on our Exo Now platform, but all you need is in this book, because we had an app, and what we found was people were going away in the woods, in the cabin in the woods, with no Wi-Fi. And they couldn't get access to it.
They actually needed a book.
They actually needed a book. So everything you need is in this book, but if you wanted supplemental resources, we have that on our Exo Now platform.
I love it.
I love that. Well, Brent, thank you so much for being here today and just sharing your heart for Exo and Marriage Today and marriage ministry. We absolutely love you guys. We love the work that you're doing. We love that we get to partner with y'all and help build marriages. And like our mission is to help break that generational cycle of divorce and just build strong, God-fearing marriages. So thank you so much for being here. We have one last question, and we ask this to all of our guests. So Blended Kingdom Family is the name of the ministry. What does a blended kingdom family mean to you?
Sure. Well, there's no specific path that everyone comes to. Everyone comes through different places. And I'm a big believer in kind of yesterday into last night. I mean, just moving forward. And there's been a quote from C.S. Lewis that's been in my heart lately. He said one time, Christianity is a fighting religion. Like you have to fight. You have to take territory for your ground. And I when I heard that I read that quote from C.S. Lewis, I thought, well, how do I apply that to marriage in my life and Exo Marriage? But you have to be committed every day to fighting for your marriage.
Yeah.
And forget the statistics. I mean, if you're married to your spouse, you're married to your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no matter what the past is, you have to be committed to fighting through the issues.
Yeah.
And you have to be committed. If you're a blended kingdom family,
Yeah.
and you're committed to the kingdom of God, you're going to have to fight. I mean, there's a spiritual warfare. Scott and I talked about it yesterday. I'm not a guy that believes everything is the devil. Like if I stub my toe, I don't think the devil was there trying to trip me up. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm an A plus B equals C kind of guy.
Yeah.
But the devil's real.
Yeah.
You can't read the Bible and not know that if you believe in Jesus, you have to believe in the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you understand that he's there always to trip you up, steal, kill, and destroy, you kind of have to prepare for that. That's why I think in that quote, Christianity is a fighting religion, that you have to be willing to fight for what you have
Amen.
from the enemy. And so to have a blended kingdom family, you have to establish who you are as a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
And you have to be committed, no matter what's happening around you, to be the change you want to see in the world. To have that marriage that you want to leave to your kids and to your grandkids. And so it starts now. And I just feel like when we go to our conferences, all kinds of couples from all different seasons of life, all different backgrounds. Some are on their first, second, third marriage. I mean, there's no real poster child anymore for Christian marriage. It's all over the place. But what does that mean for the future?
Yeah.
And how are you living your life now? And so I just want to encourage everyone out there that's tuned in to Scott and Vanessa every time they have a podcast. Just be strong in your faith. Be strong in your commitment to each other.
Yeah.
And God will bless you. God will bless your marriage.
Absolutely. Love it.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
We're excited. Well, guys, we are so excited that you tuned in with us, and we're so grateful again for Exo Marriage and Brent and your family and your extended family and all the different people that are involved with Exo Marriage.
Yeah.
We honor you guys, and we continue to pray for your success this year. So, hope you guys have enjoyed it. Have a great day.
All right. Be blessed in all that you do, guys.
Hey guys, so glad you were here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
And you can find more resources from Blended Kingdom Families at blendedkingdomfamilies.com. Join us again next time as we hang out with more amazing podcast guests. And remember, nothing will be impossible with God.